All right, let's jump right in. We're about to dive into an ancient command that, believe it or not, has everything to do with who we are today. It's all about this one idea: remember this day. So let me ask you something. Imagine you are running for your life. Total chaos is breaking out all around you. In that moment of pure survival, what's the one single thing you absolutely have to remember? Your answer? Well, it might actually surprise you. For the people of Israel, who were escaping 430 years of brutal slavery, the number one instruction wasn't about packing supplies or mapping out a route. It was something totally different. The command was to intentionally, actively build a memory that would last forever. So let's unpack what that really means. To really get how strange this command was, you have to picture the scene. This wasn't some calm, orderly walk in the park. This was the chaotic, messy, urgent liberation of an entire nation right in the middle of a crisis. We're talking about over 600,000 men, and that's not even counting the women and children. So you've got millions of people suddenly on the move, with a hostile army probably breathing down their necks. You'd think the focus would be on things like food, water, and self-defense, right? And yet, God's instructions were almost entirely fixated on one thing: creating rituals to remember this exact day. It's like the act of leaving was almost secondary to the act of remembering why they were leaving. This just raises a huge question. How in the world do you build a memory that's designed to last forever? Well, God's solution wasn't a history book or some stone monument. No, it was this incredibly sophisticated, multi-sensory system, something designed to embed this memory deep into the fabric of their culture and even into their very bodies. What's so amazing about this system is just how thorough it was. First, it completely resets their calendar. The month they got their freedom becomes the new first month of the year. So now, time itself begins with their liberation. Then you have the Passover meal, a yearly, visceral reenactment of the night they were saved. And on top of that, there's the week-long festival of unleavened bread, a physical act of removing all yeast that symbolized their new set-apart identity. You see, this wasn't just about telling a good story. It was about tasting it, smelling it, seeing it, and living it. The whole goal was to make sure this memory never became some dusty old piece of history, but that it stayed a living, breathing reality for every single generation that followed. But this gets us to the most important question of all. Why? Why was this act of remembering so absolutely critical? Well, the theologian Miroslav Volf gives us a really powerful way to understand it. Volf argues that memory does two huge things for us. First, it defines our morality by establishing what is true about the past. And second, it defines our identity by explaining who we are because of that past. This little analogy just brilliantly illustrates that moral part. A boy throwing stones at a pond remembers a fun afternoon, but for the frogs in that pond, it was a day of terror and tragedy. You see, same event, two radically different memories. Remembering the truth of what happened from the right perspective is a moral act. Israel was commanded to remember their salvation from God's perspective, not just their own. And that, right there, directly shaped their identity. Forgetting this day meant forgetting who they had become. They were no longer defined by their slavery, but by their salvation. They were a people rescued from death, specifically to worship God. Their entire identity was wrapped up in this one single memory. So, with such high stakes, you would think this command would be central to their national life, right? And this is the shocking historical twist, despite God's clear, repeated command, Israel, well, they largely failed to remember. Just look at this timeline. After Joshua observed the Passover when they first got to the Promised Land, the practice basically vanishes from the historical record for centuries. It's not properly observed again on a national level until King Josiah comes along almost 800 years later. The Bible itself makes this absolutely stunning admission. For hundreds and hundreds of years, covering the entire time of the judges and the kings, they had not kept the Passover the way they were commanded. It was a complete and total national amnesia. And the consequences, they were devastating. They lost the memory of their salvation. Then they lost their identity as God's holy people and started turning to false gods. And finally, they lost their freedom, falling right back into oppression and exile, a new kind of slavery.
So, how does this ancient story of remembering and forgetting speak to us today? Well, the New Testament doesn't just reframe this idea, it totally transforms it from a ritual you perform into a reality you live. Christians understand Jesus as the ultimate fulfillment of that original Passover. He is the Lamb whose sacrifice brings true, final salvation from death. And this changes everything about how we remember. The Apostle Paul really connects all the dots for us. He argues that because Christ, our Passover lamb, has been sacrificed, the festival isn't just a week-long event anymore, it's a lifelong commitment. Remembrance now means getting rid of the old yeast of malice and evil and living with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. And this right here is the crucial point for today. The new way to remember this ultimate salvation is to actually embody the transformation that it brings. True remembrance isn't just a ceremony you attend. It's a holy and sincere life that makes the reality of your salvation visible to the world. So that leaves all of us with a final, really crucial question to ask ourselves. Is our liberation just a story we tell, or is it a life we actually live? The answer to that question determines everything. Thanks for joining me.